Ladies and gentlemen, this is Joe's Classic Video Games back with another cool pinball repair video for you this evening. We have been working on this Williams Flash Pinball Machine designed by the great Steve Ritchie. We've actually got two of them in our shop right now. We worked on one previously, did a video on it. We've done a couple videos on this one. It was a little worse off, a little worse for wear, but we're getting there. And on the last video, we were remarking and opining that the thing didn't quite play right. It was kind of clunky and it just wasn't how it ought to be. So we were going through and fixing things that needed a little work. So there was a bunch of light bulbs that didn't work, and we fixed that. And then the kickers didn't work, and that took me forever to figure that out, but I finally got it. And then we had a whole litany of other things here that don't work right. So we had some of the rollover switches didn't work, but we fixed that. We had a little wire form gate up there that we replaced. It was messed up. But now we're down to, we've got about 3 or 4 other little things we have to mess with. We might have to work on the flippers a little bit. The S shot, whenever you shoot it out of the shooter lane, it doesn't make that ramp, that curve up there. It hits something and falls back down. So we got to line that up a little better. I'm wondering if this bracket's broke or something. That might be the problem with it. We need to work on the drop targets, and I think that's about it. So we about got it, but oh yeah, we need to touch up the paint a little bit on the playfield. So we still got a little list of things to work on. So I'm going to slide the glass off and we'll start working through it a little bit. I think the next thing that I want to mess with is maybe that S shot that we're talking about, because that'll give us the opportunity to play it a little while too and make sure that it's right. So let me start the game. Let me put some credits on it. Watch out when I shoot the ball, it doesn't traverse the playfield. It shouldn't do that. It should smoothly go around like a figure 8. And not like that. Now when the ball rolls back, it rolls back pretty smooth. So I think the ramp up there is fine. Or the wire, the ball guide up there is fine. But this one up here, this ain't right. So we got to figure that out a little better. Like that. That's how it should do this stuff. So let me take the glass off and we'll check it out a little closer. Okay, so if you look under this plastic, there is a bracket that you can loosen the screw on, and it allows you to shape the shot a little bit, right? So I've moved it way down because it's hitting the little post. Now another thing that affects this is this playfield isn't, it's worn. So when it hits these targets here, it's making it move a little bit, right? But I curved it down, and in the manual it talks about it. It says that, oh, you can see it a little better there. In the manual it says to move that, shape it, and you want it where if you pull the plunger back about halfway, that it makes that top left shot, right? Whoomp, there it is. Okay, and I've noticed the ones that I've played, if you pull it all the way back, it should make the top left shot. Much better. Okay, now if you're more of a nuanced player, some people just want to pull it back just a little bit so that they can hit the drop targets. It's not quite enough. Right, a little bit too much. Man. Okay. So it says in the manual that once you get it how you like it, to put a screw in one of the other holes to hold it in place. It already had one, but I guess over time with the wear on the playfield and maybe someone's changed the angle a little bit. But I've got it, the angle, I've got basically the front legs down about as low as I can go, and the back legs are about halfway up. It says in the manual 3.5 degrees from the factory. I'm not measuring it, people. I just set it up the way I think it plays good, right? So we've got it, and we adjusted the shooter lane, and now it should play a lot better. So let me screw that last screw back in to hold it in place, and then I think the next thing we'll do is work on the drop targets, because some of them don't work. That one works. That one works. That one does not. So it can't tell that all three are down to reset it either. And we had a problem on a previous video where when this reset one time, it blew the fuse. So we gotta look at that a little bit. Now on this one, that middle one ain't working too good. Yeah. They all went down, but I don't know, it's not resetting, so it can't tell that they're all down, so that's the problem there, which is a separate switch. We'll have to look at that. Okay, so I think we do the drop targets next. We got to get them where it knows they're all down so it can reset them, because the game's not going to be any fun if the drop targets don't reset or score or fall or whatever, right? So, but I think we got the plunger fixed. And that's a big deal. Okay, so if you're not aware, Williams' early drop targets weren't really the greatest, right? They acted up a little bit, as you can see on this one. So I've taken these apart. They have these little boards on the back of them. And when the drop target is up, it's sitting with its horseshoe wiper, they call it, sitting on these top two traces. Okay, so on the back of the drop target is a little horseshoe thing with two little contacts on it, and so it sits up on the top there. Now nothing is connected to those traces. That's unimportant, right? That's just where it sits. And then when it falls, as it falls, the horseshoe wipes over these two traces, connecting them together. So it connects this wire with this wire, and that's the switch as it falls that gives you the points. Okay, if you get a problem where the horseshoe falls halfway and stuff like that, it'll just keep racking up points and all kinds of stuff, so it can be a problem. And then when it gets all the way to the bottom, it sits on these two contacts, which connects these two traces together. And on the back, since it's a switch matrix, there are diodes and things in line, right? But the reason they did it like that was so that you get the points when you score it, but then when it lands on the bottom, it can also tell if they're all down. Because if they're all down, this trace will connect to this trace, which connects to this trace, to this trace, this trace, this trace, and they have a wire on the outside one and the other outside one, and the only way that switch can connect is if all 5 of them are down. Now, on a more modern game, they would just keep track of, okay, hey, switch number 1 fell down, and then later on switch number 3 fell down, and then later on number 5 did, and number 2 did, and now number 4 did, and if 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 are down, the ROM, the logic of the game could say, hey, since this scenario has been met, we score, we'll have it score this many points, blah, 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 blah. But on this one, they actually did it with a separate switch. So when they're all down, it triggers a switch, and if that input is triggered, you get 5,000 points or whatever it is. I guess they score, targets score 1,000 and 1 bonus advance, lit target score 5,000. I don't know what it scores when they're all down, but as you saw on this one, it couldn't tell at one point that they were all down, and then later after I did something else, it finally figured it out and made them all pop back up. Okay, so the reason it did that is because where the horseshoe was sitting on one of these contacts, it wasn't connecting very well. And you can see how dirty they are. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a little bit of sandpaper, and notice someone else has already done it. In antiquity, like I said, these things act up. They were not a great design. It's just a Williams thing. And it was the first, I don't know, maybe 10 games. By the time they got to like Black Knight, they had already kind of changed the design. So that instead of using these boards, there was a switch that it hit on the bottom when it went down. It's just set up a little bit differently. But on these early System 3, 4, and 6 games, they have this type. So we just need to clean them, get them nice and clean, and then what I do is I put a little bit of dielectric grease on it. I put this stuff on everything, and what that does is it helps it conduct, and it helps it slide a little better. It lubricates it a little bit because you have a metal contact sliding down a metal trace, right? So if you want some of this stuff, we've got it on our website. Got a link to it on Amazon on our website. Go to lionsarcade.com to our parts page. And we got stuff like this and a bunch of our other stuff that we use on these videos whenever we're doing repair. On there, a lot of them are links to Amazon. If you follow one of those links, it will take you to Amazon. And if you buy anything after you go to Amazon, like a new sports car, it gives us 3% of whatever you buy. So we appreciate everybody that's been doing that. So I'm going to clean these up and then put them back on there. And I wonder if I've got a blue drop target I can swap out for that red one. Wouldn't that be a nice little gift for Rodney? I think I'll look into that. Okay, so I got it all cleaned up and everything. I did not have a blue drop target. I started thinking about it, and I don't know that I've ever seen a Williams drop target that's broke. So I don't know why anybody would even switch one, but they have switched it. So I'll have to order a blue one. Since it's new, it'll be off a little bit. It won't be exactly the same color, but there's a decal that goes on the front that'll hide most of that. I had somebody mention in a previous video that if that it may be glass infused resin, I think is what they called it, or glass infused fiberglass, something like that. Well, I guess fiberglass would be that. But anyway, they said that if it was some other thing we were looking at, but if it has kind of like a shiny, little bit of a shine to it, that it may actually have glass in it. I think that may be what these are made out of, because they're pretty tough. The Bally drop targets break all the time. It seems like the Gottlieb ones break even more than the Bally ones, but the Williams ones, I've never seen one broke. But apparently one broke because it's been replaced. So let's see if they work. What do you think? Look at that. Dropped like it should. Right, and this is the one that we were having trouble with. Whoa! So not only did it score, but it also could tell that all three were down. Boy, it didn't that time, though. What happened? Maybe they... Whoa! What in the world? See, so we got some kind of problem when they're all the way down. And it seems like it's something to do with that left one. Now let's try these. So it's something with this left one. Whoa, huh. Boy, she sounds great. Let's make more noise. It's something with this left one being all the way down. I'll check on that. Okay, there was a wire actually that was getting pinched by the drop target when it dropped down. That was, I think, keeping it from sliding like it should. Right? So I think we got it now. Okay, so the next thing is, I noticed that the knocker is not knocking, it's humming. You don't want it to, what happened? You don't want it to hum, you want it to knock, right? So there's something going on with the knocker, so we're going to look at that. It's in the bottom of the cabinet. All right, folks, we're going to touch up the playfield just a little bit. We're not going to redo all of it, but we're mainly going to do this area right here where it's really obvious. And then we're going to touch up that woman's face. It's rough. It needs it. But the whole thing is, it has a little wear here and there, and it's yellowed, so I'm only going to touch up that little bit of it. And everything is still populated on the playfield, so it makes it a little harder. Usually I don't do it like that. I've got everything off of it, and then I do like a whole area, etc. So I'm going to try to just do that one little part, and we'll tape it off just a little bit and see how it comes out. The main problem that you run into, though, is that there is wax on the playfield. So whenever I spray clear coat on it, if it gets on the wax, it won't stick to the wax, and the stuff fish eyes up and ends up looking like crap. So I'm going to clean that whole area, maybe this area here, get it all clean with a magic eraser, and that'll remove a lot of the wax, and it'll also clean it up before we spray paint, put clear coat on it, because it'll lock in. It'll lock in whatever kind of wear or dirt is under there. So I'm going to clean it off with some rubbing alcohol and a magic eraser, and we'll see what it looks like after we clean it up a little bit, and then we'll see if we can match the color a little bit. Okay, so I cleaned it up best I could with a magic eraser, and then originally this was white, but it has just faded and faded and faded. So now it's so yellow it's almost brown. I mean, it's not even close to white anymore. The cap on this is white. You can see how it's, I mean, it's not even similar. So I'm going to use buttermilk, which is more of like a yellow light, but even that is not yellowed enough. So I'm going to mix a little bit maybe of this antique gold in with it to darken it up even more. Right? So we just use these little $1 acrylic paints, and we use acrylic paint because you can clean it up with water if you make a mistake. And then whenever it's done, once you clear over it, it's real durable and it's easy to clear over it. Sometimes if you clear over something that's oil-based, you have problems with it reacting to it. But if you spray clear over acrylic, you don't have any issues. At least that's been my experience. So I'm going to mix a little bit of this with a little bit of that and see if I can get anywhere close to that yellow color. And if I can't, I'll add a few other little things and we'll see what I come up with. Okay, so luckily this whole area is so busy that it's all going to hide pretty well, I think, once we get the blue on top of it. But the that yellow is kind of like a base color. It seems like it's underneath the other colors. We'll put the blue and a little bit of black on top of it. So I put it there, and there's a little bit up there that we're doing too. But so I ended up, I was using the buttermilk and the antique gold. It didn't look yellow enough, so I put a little marigold, and then everything on the playfield looked a little more green. So I put just a little bit of light avocado, and it kind of greened it up a little bit. I think it's a decent match. Not perfect, but it looks pretty good. So that's our first little coat. Now we got to do the blue, which to me looks like a, I mean, it's very green, but it is still blue. So it's a blue that's almost green. That's not blue enough. So let me see what I can mix up for it. Okay, so I took a little bit of kind of a medium blue, like a Bahama blue it says, and Hauser medium green, which is just kind of like a flat looking green, you know. Mixed them together and ended up with that. It was a little brighter than that, so I put the opposite of blue and green on the color wheel. If you think about a color wheel, the opposite of blue and green is kind of like an orangish color. So I put a drop or two of orange in it, and it darkened it up a little bit. And so then I painted it back over my brown. Now it looks a little bit too blue to my eye. But I've had this problem before where when it's like that and then you put clear on it. So if you look at that, it looks perfect. But if you look at that, it looks too blue on the playfield. But I've had it before where once you clear it, it comes out similar to how it looks in your mix when it's wet. So I'm going to roll with that. It's a little bit too blue, but I think it'll blend in. Now finally, I need to add in some little black stipples. How they've done all this, I'm going to do a bunch of that to hide all of those transitions everywhere that the yellow meets the yellow and the blue meets the blue. And we'll hide all of that with little dots like they did, right? I'll just try to make it match as best I can. And I kind of need to draw her a cloud up there over her. And then hopefully that will make it look a little better. So let me draw some of those in. I've got a acrylic black paint pen that I can do that with. Okay, so I put the black dots in like I was saying. Look pretty good. We're relying on the blue slightly greening whenever we clear it. We'll see if that happens or not. And then I took some orange and I mixed the yellowish white that we had in with the orange, and it gave me a pretty good match for the girl's face to fix up her forehead there. And that's about it. That's about as good as I can get it. I think it looks a lot better. Hopefully that blue will green up a little bit. So I'm going to tape off a bunch of this stuff just to kind of protect it a little bit, and then just kind of feather some clear coat in that area, and hopefully that will hold. So we'll see. Okay, so we waxed it a little bit. After we cleared it, we waxed it a little bit, and that kind of brought it together, I think. I think we're looking pretty decent here, all things considered. And people, I don't want to hear anything about the way that the lady is drawn in. That's how they drew it on the original one. You don't believe me? Well, I just happen to have another one right here. Look, I didn't do that. Come on now. I guess I could have put a little... That's about the same, folks. Alright, so I got that in. Got that. And then I waxed it again, the Playfield, just to clean up some of the areas that didn't look that good. And now it kind of has a nice vintage patina to it. Nice and shiny. See the lights reflecting off the Playfield. Was it doing that earlier? I don't know. But it looks pretty good for what it is, right? So I'm going to call that done on the paint touch-ups. I think that ended up looking pretty good. Now, we got a couple minor things left. The first thing is, of course, we have to do the fuse mod. So I went ahead and did it while you weren't looking. So in the back box, there are two little bridge rectifiers back there, those black ones. Now this game's on, people. Don't make me put my finger in. Come on, people. Did I already do that gimmick yet in this video? I can't remember. Come on, folks. I can't put my... Come on, people. Now if I touch the... Look, it's on. See all the lights? I'll get shocked. We'll stand back. Those little things right there are the bridge rectifiers. Those can go bad. If they go bad in a certain way, it will short the inputs to it and burn up the wires. Okay? So you need to take the AC wires that are running to the bridge rectifiers and put a fuse in line with them. It's a design flaw from about System 3 up to System 9 or something like that. No, System 11, I believe. I think Fire, ironically, was the first one that they fixed it in. Or it may be the last one that they didn't. But anyway, the one bridge rectifier has two red lines running to it. Those are the AC lines. If the bridge shorts, it's not strong enough to basically blow the fuse on the other side of the transformer. So it just burns up all the wires and you get all, causes you all kinds of trouble. Right? So what you do is you take one of the red lines and you clip it, and then you move over here, see that bottom fuse, and you solder it to a fuse holder. Then you put a fuse in the fuse holder, an 8 amp slow blow fuse, and then you put the other end of the red line on the other end. So basically the red line is still connected, but now there's a fuse in the middle of it. So if that were to short, it would blow that fuse and nothing would burn up. And then the other bridge rectifier has two blue lines running to it. Those are the AC lines. You take one of those lines, you cut it, you solder it to a fuse holder, you put an 8 amp fuse in the fuse holder, and then you solder the other end of the blue line to the fuse. So the blue line is still connected through the fuse, but now it has a fuse in it. So if that bridge rectifier shorts, it will blow that fuse. And that's all you got to do. You only have to do it on one line on each bridge rectifier. Okay? So that's what you're looking to do. And that will save you from your transformer getting screwed up. If you haven't done it on yours, you might want to consider it. Now, as I understand, there is a kit you can get where you can just plug something in. I don't know where to get it. Might want to research it if you don't want to solder something. Okay, now the batteries over here, I checked, and they were fine, but one of them was loose in its holder. So none of the power from the batteries was getting to the little diode above the batteries so that it could save its score settings. If you want to take that out and put a NVRAM kit in it, you can remove the 5101 chip that is here and put a NVRAM in that place. Because the problem with the batteries is if you don't swap them every year or two, they will start leaking alkaline all over the board and screw it up, right? But our buddy that's buying this one, I know he's not going to leave them in there all that long. They've lasted 40 years, people. I mean, come on. It's going to be okay. It'll be all right, people. You'll get over it. It'll be all right. Okay, so that's that. What else do we need to do? Oh, I've had people ask, why don't you replace that capacitor in the background, in the back box? Boy, that's an old looking capacitor, isn't it? Yes, it is, but all that does is run the lights. So if you get a problem where the lights are flickering like they're not supposed to, or they're real dim or something, that cap might be the problem, but in general it's not a problem and you don't need to change it. Now eventually, if you're watching this video 30 years after I filmed it, it's probably time to change the cap. But here as of 2022, around these parts we haven't started changing those yet, right? So we have the fuses in for the bridge rectifier. We rebuilt the power supply best we could, right? The MPU we didn't mess with, but somebody else has messed with it, and everything seems fine. The driver board, we worked on it. We put a new edge connector on it, 40-pin interconnect connector. The last thing, the balls not popping out of the apron. Well, I played the other flash and it did the same thing. So I think it might be the slope we've got it at or whatever. But the thing is, if it doesn't pop all the way out, it always hits it again and it doesn't cost you a ball or anything like that. So I'll keep my eyes on it, right? We got that. And then the last major thing, which is a minor thing, is George. George keeps popping this connector off the power supply. Now it's been sitting a couple days. So I bet he's almost got it off of there again. I'm going to push on it and let's see if it goes back in any. Now remember, we're turned on. Nope. It's all nice and solid. I was thinking about cutting the little locking tab off of the connector so that there's no friction trying to push it off, but I don't know. It's on there pretty good now. And you know, George only works here in the building. So once Rodney takes this thing home, it's probably not going to, it won't be a problem anymore. Okay, so I guess we just need to play it a little bit. What do you think? We'll play test it a little bit more, and then hopefully we're about done with it. Flash. If you don't know, they called it Flash because this was the first game to ever have flash lamps in it. So these are general illumination lights. They're always on. These are switched illumination lights that can be turned on and off. So these run on like 6 volts. These run on like 6 volts. But then, a new thing. These two blue lights that flash at you. Now, I know they look very similar to these. But they run on a higher voltage. So basically, they were like car lights, right? So they use the solenoid voltage to drive a couple of those with a resistor and some stuff involved. And it was off to the races from there. Okay, so we're going to play it a little bit and see if she's ready to go. Yeah, that's right. I turned on the background sound. Now, whoa, did that one score? That one might have not scored. There was no lane change yet. This one, if you hear, there's an extra little part to the background sound. I didn't notice that in the other one. So it's got the, but there's another thing going. Da, 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 da. It's much more Phantom of the Opera. Now you notice on the figure 8 shot we got, a lot of times it doesn't hit that switch up there. It kind of bounces over it just in the place that it lands on the thing. It bounces over the switch. So not too much I can do about that though. I got it that time. It wanted to impress me. Ooh. Also, we've set it on 5-ball because the owner said that he likes 5-ball. How the 4 didn't light, but it made the noise. I think that's right, though. I think. Missed it. Ah, come on. Come on. Yeah. So the instructions, which I didn't read you. Making 1, 2, 3 lights 2x. Making 1, 2, 3, 4 lights 3x. So it gave us that noise on 1, 2, 3 because that's a certain thing. Boy, that spinner shot smooth, Steve Ritchie. Look at that. Woo! Oof. Oh, come on. Come on now. Whoa. So is that our fuse blew again? Is it? No, it's just our sound. Okay. It's still scoring. You see how boring a game is with no sound, though. All that beautiful droning background noise, not there. Looks like everything still works, though. Let's see if the drop target's reset. Yep. Well, I guess I'm gonna have to just make my own sounds. All right, so it just kills the sound. So that's fixable. But everything else is still working. He had mentioned that the sound cut off of him, so I just hadn't heard it do it yet. But I have now. This is my best game, too. Look how good I'm doing. Ooh, that's slick. What a slick shot, Steve Ritchie. You can also loop it at the top, and I'm not very good at that. All right, all right. What do you think could be the problem? Might just be the speaker. What do you think? Think it's the speaker? Well, that'd be too easy, wouldn't it? Well, there's a nice spinner shot there, too. Now, I know a lot of you would just give up on a game right in the middle of the game. I'm not one of those people. You're not going to get me involved with your devious ways. If I'm playing the game, I'm playing the game, all right? I mean, I don't know why you'd want me to stop just because the sound cut off. That's nothing. Come on now. Come on, people. Okay, so here we are with the soundboard. We kind of know it's the soundboard because if it was the driver board or the main board that sends the signals to the soundboard, you would lose some of the sounds, but you wouldn't lose all of them. So here's the schematics. There is a power section. You can't see it. There is a power section on the board. Okay, and then there is what they call sound select inputs. So basically the soundboard can trigger, the game board can trigger sounds by sending it solenoid signals. Now I wonder, see these little jumpers? There are 8 jumpers. On the actual board, it shows you which jumpers to attach. I wonder if somebody's messed with the jumpers and that's why this one sounds different. So basically it's going in the background, and the other one does that too, but then it's going like that. Right? And it's got this fugue sound, but I like it. I like it. I'm going to leave it, but I wonder if these jumpers are different on this one, and that's why. That could be the whole thing. So jumper 2, 4, 6, and 7 are in. A couple have been cut, and it says, I can't hardly read it. That doesn't help. Damn LEDs, they're too bright. I can't tell what they're trying to say. I think it looks like they're saying the first one needs to be in, the third one needs to be in, the 5th one needs to be in, and the 8th one needs to be in if it's a PROM. But if it's a ROM, the other ones need to be in. So, whatever. Whatever, people. Okay, so that's basically how it selects the sounds. And then you also have this here, this toggle switch. If you set it one way, it makes everything sound like chimes. If you set it the other way, it makes everything sound cool, like it does right now. All right, and then I got to darken it up so you can read the actual schematics a little bit. So that is read by this peripheral interface adapter, PIA chip. Yeah, I said it. It's a PIA. Okay, now the PIA, if you don't know about that, basically it can handle inputs and outputs. And basically it talks over here to the CPU. So there's a 6802 CPU, which has a ROM or a PROM, right? And then I thought there was a RAM chip too. How are they doing my RAM? I don't know how they do the RAM. Somehow they do it. But anyway, it works with this 6821. So it gets signals in through PB, right? And it can, basically, that's its inputs to the CPU. And then the CPU can also get it to these PA outputs, which run through a 1408, right? Do a couple little tricky things with 12 volt. There's a volume potentiometer that runs back out the board to an external volume knob, which runs back in the board, is amplified, and goes to the speaker. So this thing, you heard it, just bam, died. Completely freaking died. Now look what's going on with the actual board. You see what's going on? You may not be able to see it. Someone's been chasing a problem. So this chip's been replaced. This chip's been replaced. All 3 of these are in sockets. I think the PROM probably would be, but I'm not so sure about the CPU or the PIA. PIA has had a socket added. I think the CPU, that might be the original socket. Right? Capacitor replaced, all the caps redone. So what's going on? They've been having this problem. That's what's going on. So I've decided, well, I'll just pop out the chips. Let me look at the chips. Oh, what is that? Pin number 23 is bent over and wasn't in the socket. Oh, I wonder if that would have anything to do with it. I wonder if that would make it. I wonder what that would do. So pin 23 is one of the enable lines. So I looked it up. 22, 23, and 24 have to be, a couple of them have to be high, and that particular one has to be low to turn on the PIA. So if that's off, it can't output audio. And then it said that it has to remain stable over the cycle, of some kind of a cycle that it's doing, right? Probably caused by the clockage, right? So in other words, if that pin isn't in there well, or maybe it was just touching the socket or something, and then it moved a little bit whenever I hit a pop bumper or something, and it went like that, right? That would make it cut completely off. This is common type of stuff, people. This is the type of stuff that you're looking for. Okay, so I'm going to straighten that pin back out. I'm going to clean the legs off just a little bit, and then we'll slide it back in, and then I'm going to play it for about the next 5 days to make sure it doesn't do it again. But I think that'll be it, because it's kind of got to be something on this board. And if you find the chip that enables the sound output, the pin that enables the sound output isn't even in the socket, it's just bent over. High likelihood, people. There's a high likelihood that that's the problem. I mean, it's a really high likelihood if you think about it. Okay, folks, we're going to see if this is any better. Now, you might notice that the hum is gone, or largely gone. They've double grounded it. Whenever they double ground things, it always makes a hum. There's a ground loop. So there's it's grounded to the back box with a ground strap, and then it has a ground from the center tap of the transformer. If you've got both hooked up, it hums. If you take loose the wire in the connector from the center tap, I know you're freaking out. This is about the third time on this video I've freaked everybody out. Then it's only using the regular ground everything else is using, and it doesn't hum. So, you know, you can argue with results if you want. All right, let's see if she works good. We'll have to see if she crashes again. I checked in the manual. This is the correct ROM for this game. But it's also the same ROM used in a bunch of other games, so. Get it, y'all. I'm trying to make the sound freak out and cut off again. In through the outdoor. Boom! Rip that spinner. All right, folks, leave your comments below. I'm gonna have to keep playing this for days to make sure that the sound is all right. And I gotta fix that right drop target. It's not scoring. But I think we're looking pretty good. I've got to keep playing it though to make sure the sound doesn't cut out after a while. And last but not least, don't forget to check out my brother Donnie. If you don't know about my brother Donnie, he has his own channel here on YouTube called My Brother Donnie, and there's a link down below. If you like watching us work on these old pinball machines because you like old stuff, are you that type of person? Well, then you'd probably like watching us work on old vehicles, old buildings. We have a couple old buildings we bought in a small town near here in their downtown area that we were fixing up, trying to help revitalize their downtown area. So go check that out. And I'm usually over there with them. So we'll play this again for several days just to make sure that the soundboard's good to go. I saw a thing about an update. This has a 6821 in it, but if you looked in the schematics, it said 6820. Apparently, they're slightly different. So there may be. It said there was an update if you need to use a 6821. So I need to check and see if that update was done to the board and some little minor stuff like that. You see how there's like a million little things that you have to mess with, like the drop target, to get one back. But hopefully this will entertain you if you're into the older stuff and you like watching us work through these little tiny flaws, some of them bigger than others. But hey, it's fun. It's kind of what we do. Look, there's a light out now too. There you go. Everybody loves it when the light bulb doesn't work. There's a bad light bulb right there. See it? That's it right there. All right, folks. We hope you appreciate the video, and we will see you on the next one. This is Williams Flash.